Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Memphis Dynasty here on NCAA 2012, one of the underrated NCAA games that we have on the market. And we're also out here trying to rebuild this Memphis Tiger from that bottom feeder all the way up to a national powerhouse. And we find ourselves here at the end of the season. So you know what time it is, man. That off-season recap. Gonna kind of recap how the season went, show some stats, and get into the off-season, man, as we prepare for some big changes going into year number 3. But I will leave all of that for the rest of this episode, man. So if you're excited for it, make sure you go ahead and smack that like button. Hit that subscribe button for me as well if you do happen to be brand new. If this was a team that once again really did well in terms of beating expectations. This was a year last year we overachieved, in my opinion. We went 7-6, went to a bowl game, may have lost in that bowl game, but then we really built off of that going into year number 2. Year number 2 was a year in which we went 11-3, and we were off to a really good start here as well. We ended up winning our first 7 games, and winning our first 7 games pretty convincingly for the most part. The only hiccups, we did have some hiccups after our main bye week, and after the bye week things weren't as peachy. We did lose to Eastern Carolina. They did not even make it to a bowl game. We did beat UCF though, who was a top 25 team at the time that we played them, but then we did end the year on a 2-game losing streak, lost in the conference championship game to SMU, and then we also lost in the Ticket City Bowl to Michigan State, where we struggle to score. And we can beat the teams that we're supposed to beat, but sometimes when we play against better teams or we have a really big stage on us, we really did struggle. And even on our wins, we didn't really score a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how we move forward as we are getting ready to, like I said, have some big changes this offseason. But in case you were interested in who won the national championship this year, they gave it to the Hokies of Virginia Tech. They did end up running the table in the ACC, finishing a pretty good 14-0, 9-0 conference record. They played up against Utah, and Utah just really couldn't compete that well. Virginia Tech really pulled away in that second half, and it ended up being a 38-9 win for Virginia Tech. They were able to bring home a national championship. But now let's go ahead and check out the season stats that we put together over the course of the season. And right off rip, I wanted to see the NCAA leaders in each category. Jesse Richards, man, finishes number 5 in the country. He ends up with 3,900 passing yards. While he wasn't the most efficient passer, I think his completion percentage sat like in that 50 to 55% range. Not great, but that's going to get better as we put together a better offensive line. And, we have more depth at the wide receiver position. So, I'm looking to build off of that. William Jones was a top 15 guy. He had 1,200 yards rushing on the season. That's not bad either. Had some big games for us. No 1,000-yard receiver, but James Pittman was the closest. He had 917 yards throughout the season. Tackling, though, we did have plenty of solo tackles. Vince Tate was on top with 57 solo tackles, and Tommy Myers ended up with 55 on the year. So a couple of defensive guys really stepping up and, being one of the better defensive players in the country. As for sacks, we may have had times it seemed like getting to the quarterback, but Robert Bowen really had a breakout season, though. He ended up with 11 sacks, and that did also lead the NCAA. So congratulations to Robert Bowen. He did win a couple of awards, if I remember. Tommy Myers got a couple of interceptions. Have to do a little bit better of a job taking care of the football. As for who won the awards around the country, as well as checking out the All-Americans, Jason Harrell is obviously going to be named a All-American. He is a senior redshirt. He wins the Heisman this year and put up some really good stats this year. He ends up 63 passing touchdowns in his career. No, he had 34 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, and he had a 68% completion percentage. If you ask me, that's really darn impressive. And, he got it done as a dual threat too. Almost 700 yards rushing on the year, 14 rushing touchdowns. So this Heisman Trophy was a no-brainer. As for the other All-Americans on this list, I'm really curious to see if we did end up with any All-Americans. I don't think we'll have any on the offensive side of the ball, but, maybe we'll have a little bit of love on the defensive side, and sure enough, we do. Robert Bowen does get named as a first-team All-American. The Bristol, Tennessee product, he really stepped up this year. Really a breakout year, because back in 2011, he did not really have that kind of productivity, so that was really a huge step up for him. Vince Tate also gets named first team All-American. He's really coming out on top, representing well for Lawrenceville, Georgia. We'll see if we have any more All-Americans. Our kicker is a first team All-American. You love to see that. Theo Perry, he won the Grozo Award. Love to see that. He's also a senior as well, so we're going to be missing him. And then as for the second team All-Americans, again, nobody really on the offensive side of the football, but defensively, do we have anybody? We do have one more person, and it is Tommy Myers, the Port Charlotte, Florida product. He gets second team nods for the All-Americans. Also a senior redshirt, so we're going to be really missing out on him next season. As for the award winners, we'll go ahead and check out to see if there are any award winners that we do end up getting. Jason Harrell wants the Maxwell. Walter Camp is also going to go to Jason Harrell as well, so really adding to his trophy case. Bednarik goes to the best corner, and that's going to go to Brian Giffen, the senior redshirt from Oklahoma State. Nagurski also goes to Brian Giffen, but we do have a finalist here, and that is Robert Bowen, who does end up winning a different award. As for the best quarterbacks in the country, Jason Hughes ends up winning the O'Brien Award. He's a junior redshirt quarterback for the Troy Trojans. A very good quarterback, too, if I say so myself. Walker goes to the best running back, and that's going to go to Tim Richards. He's a senior from Pittsburgh. As for the Blinikoff, the best wide receiver in college football, that's going to go to Marlon Morris, who's a junior redshirt from North Carolina State. The Mackey goes to the best tight end, and that goes to Jermaine Hawkins, the senior redshirt from the University of Alabama. For the Outland, that's going to go to the best offensive lineman. That is Andrew Lee. He's a junior redshirt from Borger, Texas. He didn't allow a single sack this year. Remington goes to the best center, and that is belonging to Michael Price. He's a junior redshirt from Piedmont, Alabama. He had 24 pancakes and 2 sacks. As for the Lombardi, like I said, Robert Bowen did win that, and as such, he does get that first team All-American treatment. For the best linebacker, Sean Fletcher does end up winning that this year. He's a senior from Mount Olympus, Utah, so a hometown product for the Utah Utes. We do have a finalist in here, though, as Vint Tate does end up finishing in 6th place on this awards list this year. For the Forpay Award, that goes to the best corner. That also is going to go to Brian Griffin. Groza does make it to Theo Perry, like I said earlier. And then the Kyle Guy Award goes to Mark Brunner, the senior redshirt from the University of South Carolina. And the final award that I wanted to talk about is this is called the Jet Award now, but back then it was just called Best Returner. Don't know if they couldn't get the rights to it or what's going on there, but John Jolly does end up winning the award. He's a senior redshirt from the University of UConn. So we check out how our contract is going after we do wrap up with the offseason, and we're looking pretty safe right now. We got a cool 69 giggity job security as of right now. We did end up meeting a couple of more goals. We did end up winning 75% of our games in one season, thanks to what we did in year number 2. And we also finished 4 for better in our conference in one season, so that's a pretty big impact. We still have 4 more goals that we need to accomplish, and that's basically doing things off of each regular season. Beat most of our rivals, sign some 2-star better prospects each regular season, beat a rival opponent, that shouldn't be too hard for us to do, and then finish each season ranked in the BCS top 100. This year we ended up finishing in 34th place. But we go into the coaching changes with a really big surprise, actually. We see the offensive coordinator that we had ended up getting fired. Now, that was really an interesting decision because I thought we had some really good offensive output over the course of the year. Plus, you don't typically fire somebody after you win double-digit games, so maybe something happened behind the scenes. Let me know down in the comments what you think happened to our old offensive coordinator. But Our new offensive coordinator is Jonathan Gray as of right now. Wink wink to the channel members. But Jonathan Gray, he was actually the offensive coordinator for Troy. He did have his contract expired and wanted to come here as we make our transition to a new conference. But the thing about us though is that we do not have anybody transferring out of the program this year, but we do say goodbye to some key pieces as we try to replace them. Anthony Dungus, for example, he was our #1 wide receiver past couple of seasons, and while he didn't put up wide receiver 1 numbers, he did struggle with injuries. He's a guy who was effective when he was on the field. We also are going to say goodbye to Theo Perry as well, the senior from Texarkana, Arkansas, and he won the Lou Garza Award, so he's coming out on top, although he looks like he's not going to get any particular NFL consideration. And then, of course, we say goodbye to some other players as well. Vince Tate, he was named an All-American. Tommy Myers was named an All-American as well. And then other starters that were on this football team, and that does include Antonio Campbell, James Pittman, Robert Bowen, who did end up winning the Lombardi Award, Mark Walden, who was our starting punter, and, of course, Julian Jackson, the senior redshirt from Single Mountain, Tennessee. So we are saying goodbye to 9 starters that were seniors this year. Rocky Scott is also graduating as well. That's another starter. So there's going to be some turnover in the starting lineup. So hopefully those younger guys, they continue to develop so that when they step on the field in a full-time capacity, they're ready to go. So since we didn't get anybody in the transfer portal either, what we do end up having is, so we have 10 scholarships to work with, but the biggest need that I want to try to address is kicker. And right now, kicker's not looking that great for us. There was one kicker that we were trying to go after, Jordan Turner, but looks like he might be going to Bowling Green. We'll still see if we can sneak in there, but that's something I really want to address, and get a kicker so that we can have somebody to actually kick the ball for us this upcoming season. There's a couple of 3-stars that I did end up finding earlier. Rick Crowder, but Georgia's going after him pretty hard. They haven't offered him a scholarship yet. And then we're also in the running for Eddie Powers. He's 109th ranked running back from Alabama, and he's soft towards Purdue, but Purdue has not offered him a scholarship yet, so we still have a chance to get in there. We're also competing against Vanderbilt, so we got 5 weeks of recruiting. I will let you know along the way if we end up signing anybody, but then no matter what happens at the end of this recruiting cycle, I will let you know what a recruiting class is looking like so that you guys can see who's available to take over as custom prospects. So I'll see you guys until my next update. Alright boys, so we get some good news to start the recruiting cycle as we get Rick Crowder to sign on that dotted line for us, the 3-star safety from Alabama. We were able to pry him away from the hands of Georgia. He's going to be coming to our program. We did also go ahead and add a couple of guys onto the board. We got 3-star quarterback Glenn Lewis. He's a pocket passer from Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. We did also add a 2-star kicker. He's kind of a backup plan in case these other 2 kickers on board we can't get him. We are his only scholarship offer right now, but some work that needs to be done there. And we also added 3-star safety Trent Bullock. He's from Chantilly, Virginia, as we're trying to get him to come to our program as well. Alright boys, so not only did we end up signing that 3-star safety, but Eric Powers, that running back from Alabama, he's going to come to our program as well. So that's 2 stars that are coming into the fold. We do also sign a 1-star outside linebacker from Tennessee. He'll be a developmental piece and will be able to provide some more depth into our football program. So do you want to talk about hitting that recruiting trail? Man, we are having a good recruiting cycle. We end up signing that 3-star quarterback Glenn Lewis. Yeah, he's a part of our program now. And we had a couple of targets onto our list, trying to get some athletes. I like to try to get as athletic as possible. We had the 3-star athlete Andrew Jenkins of North Druid Hills, Georgia. And then we also added Joseph Pino, the 3-star athlete from Cutler Ridge, Florida. We are starting to run low on scholarships, though. We're down to just 6. That'll probably turn to 5. with the quarterback signing, so gotta be a little bit more careful with who we decide to bring in. Alright boys, so we ended up finishing this recruiting class pretty strong as we end up signing a couple more 3-stars. We've signed up that Bullet kid from Virginia that we were going after, but this is a promising surprise here. Cannon, the 3-star defensive end from Mississippi, he's also going to sign on that dotted line, so that just bolsters up our recruiting class further. So with this recruiting class, we actually finished number 69 in the country, and that is very nice, if I say so myself. We also do find out that we get an upgrade as well. We end up as a 3-star program. Now, one thing that we were looking for is a kicker, and unfortunately, we did not manage to bring a kicker in this year. But really do like this recruiting class. Other than that, a majority of our players are 3-star players, and that is significantly better than what we were doing this time last year. So this is what our recruiting class does end up looking like at a more individual level. And if you made it this far into the video, what you guys can do is, how I'm getting you guys into this series is that I am going to rename the players that we already signed, and then you guys will come in as true freshmen, right? Or, you know, just new members of this recruiting class in general. So, what I need you guys to do, for those players that have not been taken is, you know, fill out the template that is going to be linked as a pinned comment. So, if you're interested in a custom player, go to that pinned comment section. And what I'm also going to need you to do is, you know, just replace who you want to play with. Put your new guy's name in there, and then any swag that you want him to have. That part's completely optional, but yeah, man, I'm real excited to see what kind of custom guys that you bring to the table as we come into year number 3 with a little bit more momentum than we did this time last season. But we now go ahead and move ourselves into position changes this upcoming season. And of course, something that I do always like to do is, like, I like to change the position of our athletes. And we're going to see what Tim Means is, because I couldn't quite see what he was. Looks like he's more meant to be a wide receiver, but we could also put him at corner if we want to do that. We'll go ahead and check that out real quick to see what we got going on. We do have several wide receivers, but none of them that are really that good. So if we did want to put him at wide receiver, that is an option for us. But I'm looking at this cornerback position as well. Only got 6 corners, and 3 of our top corners are all seniors this upcoming season. So, you know, gotta be looking towards the future. Hopefully we can develop LaRue Nugent as well as Seth Randolph as well. Sam Randolph, I did see him get an interception. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead, even though he's not meant completely to be a corner, I'm going to put Tim Means at that cornerback position. Now, another thing that I think I am going to go ahead and do is, I think I'm going to move one of these defensive linemen, and I'm going to kick him inside. And I'm looking at Tony Marquardt in particular, because he's a pretty low overall. We just signed this 3-star defensive lineman in David Kraft, right? So he's not going to get meaningful playing time, but we can give him a little bit more playing time, I think, if we kick him inside. He doesn't lose any of his overall, and, you know, we'll give him a little bit more of an opportunity to see playing time, as he will come into this season as a number 2 defensive tackle, potentially, something like that. Maybe he could be our number 3 defensive tackle and have more of a role on this team. And finally, well, maybe not finally, but, you know, at outside linebacker, we did sign quite a few outside linebackers. Greg Copeland, Isaiah McMillan, and Dante Sims, all 2-star guys. I'm looking at this group, and I think I want to keep Greg Copeland here. I think I might start him as a true freshman, because he might be the most raw, but he has that 84 speed. Someone who I could afford to move over on the other side, though, is Dante Sims. We're a little bit short over at left outside linebacker, so that gets us to an even 3-3 over there, and he can back up Sam Miller this upcoming season while, you know, being more solidified in that backup role. Now, as for how our rest of our squad is going to be looking as we get through training results, we got a few studs on our teams, and I think we're going to have a great backfield this upcoming season. Justin Brown, he was at transfer from Southern Florida that I was talking about in the year 1 off-season recap. He's going to be an 87 overall. He was +6. He's got 96 speed as well. He's going to be more of our feature back, and he's also going to be somebody that is going to be that lightning complement. We also have our other running back in William Jones, who may not be as quick, and he's going to be reduced to a backup role, but this is a guy that can still play some really good football, right? So he's going to still see the field in some capacities. We're going to get him out, into open space, and he can still do good things as well. And of course, we still have Jesse Richards, who, at least to this point, he's going to be a 3-year starter. So, I expect him to make some really good decisions this upcoming season. As for how the rest of the team is going to be shaking out, Riley Bell does get to a 70 overall, and in cases that he does come into the game, him as well as Joseph Thompson and Dan Washington, they can all step in and, open up our playbook a little bit, because Jesse Richards, one weakness he does have is that he doesn't have the ability to run the read options. As for the ground game, we still also have some experience at the running back position, such as Matt Turner, Tufington, Ali Atkinson, who was our year 1 hero, and then Jason Burton as well. Wide receiver could be a little bit more difficult for us this upcoming season. A lot of youth. Going to be expecting guys like Chris Washington, Willie Duckett, and Jamarcus Mitchell to really step up this year. So maybe a team where we run the football a little bit more often, try to establish that running game. As some of the custom guys are, progressing okay. Tight end, we do have Brian the Kid still. He will be returning for us in the starting lineup. And for the offensive line, still trying to build things up in the trenches. Zach Foster will be there. It has experience, but not very talented. Dan Larson is going to be one of our better offensive linemen. Matthew Hodge is going to take over at center, though, and he could be overpowered quite often. Chance Coleman, though, he'll be good for us at right guard. Movington coming along pretty okay. And then at right tackle, we'll have Jerome Holmes. So we will have a little bit shaky of an offensive line. So, in terms of trying to be creative on offense, that's going to have to be a must. As for the defensive side of the football, Nate Coleman comes in as a 65 overall, while Kyle Davis will be our other starter on defensive end. He'll be at a 69. At defensive tackle, what we got going on is that Pat Taylor is going to be the junior, and then Mario Davenport will be the other starter. He's going to be a senior redshirt there on the starting line. Tony Marquette, however, he looks like he's going to win that defensive tackle free position, so he'll have a role in this team too. As for outside linebacker, Sam Miller is still going to be a starter for us. He's going to stick around, but AJ Kaysen will be starting at that middle linebacker position with the graduation of Vince Tate. And at right outside linebacker, the only experienced one is Josh Meadows, who does have a legit start at starting this season, so we might see a little bit more custom love. And then, of course, at corner, got some experience at corner. That might be the strength of our defense. We got Ryan Towns and Zach Scott still starting. Then, of course, Antoine Curtis can still come in and make some plays on the football, with Aru Nugent and Seth Randolph waiting in the wings. And then at strong safety, we have Reggie Franklin. He's going to be a 68 overall this upcoming season. Eric Harris, though, was almost able to overcome him, but he falls just short in his senior year trying to win that starting job. And Jason Kelly, he's one of the best players that we have on this team. He's an 84 overall. But with that being said, one of the toughest things that we do need to do in any offseason is we got to go ahead and cut some players. And we have 8 players that we need to drop. So one of them we can't cut right away. Dustin Rose, we're going to be stuck with him at kicker, but what I am going to do is that I'm going to have Jason Kelly also start for us at that kicker position, and then, if we get lucky, we'll try to find like another kicker if we have extra scholarships that we work with after we take care of other more pressing needs on our football team, right? So I think that's going to be my plan going forward, but I am going to get rid of Derek Mills. He's a 1-star linebacker. He ain't it, right? He is just not good, so I'm going to get rid of him. Alexander Gray is a custom player, so I'm not going to get rid of him, and that's one wrinkle that I will add into this dynasty. Any custom that's on this team, they're not going to be cut, no matter what, under any circumstances, but there's a bunch of older guys that I can cut. A bunch of low 50 overall guys that are, junior red shirts, sophomores, that kind of stuff that been in our program. So I'm going to get rid of some of these guys. Willis Ferrada is a different story. He is someone that, I can't cut. Stephen Freeman, can I cut him? He played a little bit last year, but, he just ain't it. I don't see him in our long-term picture. And then Wolf 57 overalls, Fred Carey, I'm going to get rid of him. Peter Young, I didn't really even talk about him in trading results, but he gets up to a 57. He'll still be gone, though. And then we're down to one last cut that we can make, and I'm really leaning towards Tony Marquand. I'm not going to lie to you guys, because it turns out that Drew Coe is actually better than him. And I really don't want to cut TJ Cannon. He's a free start. Not where we want him to be for a free star player, but he has a little bit more potential than Tony Marquand. So luckily for him, though, he does not get cut. So a little bit of a shocker here, to be honest. We're going to cut TJ Cannon, but he can't be cut either. He's at the minimal limit, so we have more choices here. Court Perkins, perhaps. He's a sophomore redshirt, only a 59 overall. And I think that's what we're going to do. He'll be our final cut. And this right here is going to be your roster this upcoming season. But one thing that we always like to do with an older NCAA game is that I like to mirror what actually happens in real life with the college football conference realignments. And the biggest thing that happens in the offseason, there's a lot of movement. The ACC, they do end up expanding from 17 teams all the way up to 14. And they go to the Big East for those two teams. The Syracuse Orange are going to join the Atlantic Division, and the Pittsburgh Panthers, they end up joining the Coastal Division along with that. So what this means for us specifically is that since the Big East was looking for more teams to join, we actually did receive an invite to join the Big East. They do end up getting called the American Conference at this point, but I'm not out here trying to change conference names. It is what it is. But that being said, we are now part of the Big East Conference now, and we get invited alongside a few other teams from Conference USA. The Houston Cougars, SMU, who ends up being the defending Conference USA champions, and UCF, who was ranked in the top 25 late in the season as well. Going to be some tougher competition overall, so it's going to really challenge us to play at a higher level. As for how Conference USA looks today, there were some teams added from the Sun Belt: Florida Atlantic, Florida International, North Texas, and Mid-Tennessee State. They all decide to leave from the Sun Belt in order to join Conference USA. In addition, Louisiana Tech, they leave the WAC conference in what is towards the end of the WAC's time as an FBS conference. They come over to Conference USA as well. Finally, the last thing that I needed to note is that Mountain West does get a conference championship as well, because Utah State and San Jose State, they also go from that WAC conference. They're now part of the Mountain West, and they're going to have their very first conference championship game this upcoming season. But now that we were able to go ahead and set our roster up, as well as see what conference we're going to be in, we're going to head now and check out the red shirts that we're going to end up redshirting this upcoming season. And first, I'm going to start with the quarterbacks. We're redshirting Glenn Lewis because he is going to be buried on that depth chart, but I do see him as somebody that could potentially become a starter for us. As for the running back position, Eddie Powers is going to be redshirted here. He's going to also be buried on the depth chart. Well, he's not very quick. He could run over some people, so we just got to refine his skills and get him to know the playbook a little bit. Over on the defensive side of the football, I am at least going to start with redshirting Jason Fontenot. And Jason Fontenot, I told him that I would not redshirt him. However, that being said, I'm looking at this depth chart, and it will just make more sense to do that because AJ Kaysen, I'm going to play him over him, but he's got very good skills. And you know, if we do have some injuries at the linebacker position, I will be happy to burn his red shirt and let him play in his true freshman year. And then, of course, at the free safety position, I did end up bringing in quite a few safeties, but not all of them could play, actually. And honestly, the worst one out of them all was Gabe Martin from Macomb, Mississippi. I'm going to redshirt him because I need him to be faster. I need him to be a little bit quicker. I don't think 78 speed is going to cut it personally in order for us to be successful with our defense. And since we are in the Big East now, one of the really quirky things that we have going on with our schedule is that, you know, unlike most conferences now, we will actually play the vast majority of our conference games in the beginning of the season, and we start with a nasty 4-game road trip going on the road against UCF, Louisville, which is a rivalry game. That's in the that's pretty close to us, Temple, and rounding out that road trip taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats. Then we get a free game homestand taking on Connecticut, Rutgers, and Southern Florida. Then we round out the season with most of our non-conference action. We go against Western Kentucky on the road, take on a quarterback who was a part of our team in season number 1. He's going to be starting for him, so a little bit of a revenge game potentially for that quarterback. We also have Navy on the road, Houston on the road, that's a conference opponent, and we round out our season playing against Notre Dame at home, as well as playing against the defending Conference USA champions in the SMU Mustangs. We'll see if we can get revenge in that department. So in season number 2, where that is going to put us, well, season number 3 is going to start similar to how season number 2 goes and ends. We are going to take on UCF in our very first game, in the newly formed American Conference. And this American Conference squad is a former foe from the Conference USA. So a little bit of familiarity to start season number 3, but I am excited for the changes that's going to come to our program. We're in a bigger conference now because of our success, and I can't wait to see how things shake out. And I hope you guys are excited for it as well. If you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well if you have to be brand new to the channel. Next episode, we will start year number 3 action. And I hope you guys are ready for it. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. I hope you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.